right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Ducks Unlimited. I am Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That's right. That's right. Had a good hunt this morning, in and out by 8 o'clock. Shot a band, 12-year-old band from Alaska somewhere. I don't remember where.
And we shot a band yesterday.
We shot a band
Two
yesterday,
bands in
too.
2 days. Didn't kill a band last year.
That's
so
right.
We're some band slayers.
We are.
Someone's going to call me today, and they're going to be like, hey, I want to book a hunt. We want to kill a band. Well, yep, everybody does.
Everybody does.
With us today from the crime central of Western Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, our friend, the chief event fundraiser for Ducks Unlimited, Mr. David Schuessler. David, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm not doing as well as y'all. I didn't kill a band this
Well,
morning.
I didn't either. But it could have been mine because I was the one that Andy called and said, hey, we got a bird down somewhere.
No,
and it wasn't
was
that bird.
I know.
But it could have been that bird. And then nobody would have known about it. And one of my grandkids I'd have given a band to. No, I wouldn't have done that because they're veterans, and I wouldn't take from the veterans. I would have said that. But we had that yesterday. We shot a band, and they had to do a drawing for it. And somebody always gets their feelings hurt on that deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was the one from yesterday? The one today was from Alaska. Where
The
was
one yesterday was from Canada, and I think it was going to be none of it, maybe.
You think so?
I think it's where it was none of it.
I could probably find. I think I just saw the kid that guided the hunt. He just walked in. I'll go ask him real quick. He took a picture of the certificate. I'll go ask him.
We have got a ton of specklebellies here right now. A ton. It's amazing.
with more coming. Probably.
Yeah,
with what's happening. I mean, they talk about the grand passage when the weather gets right and they all have to get out of there. I think that's what we're going to see over the next week or so.
I have actually witnessed one grand passage that I would really consider a grand passage. And it was probably about 15 years ago, and I do not remember the year, but we had one of those deals where we went from 65 and 70 degrees down to like 35 for a high for about 5 days in a row. And we went from a good number of birds, 20 to 30,000 birds to 250,000 birds. I mean, just in a 2 day period, probably. And I don't know what kind of bird numbers we're going to get. I know there's not a lot of food in Nebraska and Kansas. Our temperatures, we're going to have a 50-degree temperature change because we're going to be in the mid-80s today, and it's going to be a low of 35 or 36 degrees. So we're going to be, and so we are going to pick up a lot of birds in the next day or two. And our hunting has been, we've been open now 5 days.
Yep.
And we have shot a limit, our limits on specs every morning just about, except with maybe one group, maybe two groups out of like 3 groups a day. We've had a great start. It's been a good, we're off to a great start.
The kid was not in there, so
okay. I think it's a mystery. I think it's none of it is where it was.
This one was Alaska. It was They think it was 2 years old when it was banded, and it was banded in 2012.
So 12-year-old bird.
So 12-year-old bird.
Old one.
Yeah,
an old one.
We had a band here. We shot a Canada one time that was 23 years old, and the band on it, the band was like a moon shaped. It was so wore out.
I love the band stories, like, when they'll run them in Wildfowl magazine. I know they do them in our magazine sometimes. Some of the crazy stories, this snow goose has traveled so many millions of miles over the past 25 years. I think that's a neat part of it. And I think that's why so many people want to kill a band, is to just imagine that story.
That's what I like about the band, is you can attach a story to it, and it can be whatever story you want it to be. I mean, I think of the miles that it's traveled, the decoy spreads that it's traveled over, and I'd like to think that it's spent every year down here, but who knows? But I mean, in my mind, when we shoot a band that is that old, I think every year I've missed it by who knows how many times have I missed this bird before.
Would you like to know how many times it's been in your spread and gotten out?
Right.
I mean, that would be an interesting thing. That's what I like about the GPS trackers. What shocks me is how much east to west movement these birds make. It ain't all north to south. A bird might stay in Stuttgart and spec there, and then might end up in Amarillo for 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden go back to Stuttgart and stay there for a month. I mean, they do.
Oh, I think it would shock people to know how much they move around. When I lived in Austin, they were doing some telemetry work, and I think they shot a pintail that was in El Campo every morning, and then it was going every afternoon up to Shreveport or something like that, and then coming back down. And that's in one day. That's pretty amazing.
When I was a younger guy, I'm gonna say in the early '80s, late '70s, early '80s, there was a flock of snow geese that stayed on Hagerman Wildlife Refuge at Sherman, and we're talking 2,000 or 3,000 birds, and those birds stayed there all night long. That was their roost. They would get up and fly down the Red River, and they would fly to the Wagner Ranch. And the Wagner Ranch has got a wheat field that's 10 square miles. I've hunted on it before. It's unbelievable. That's one wheat field. And those snow geese would land there every single day. 2,000 or 3,000 deal. They'd stay all day on that ranch, and they'd get up at night, get up to, quarter of a mile up in there and fly back to Sherman, Texas every night. And
Wow.
they did that for years. Why in the world could they not find some wheat a little closer to Hagerman Wildlife Refuge? Or why could they not stay on one of the lakes right around Wichita Falls? But that was their same deal that they did, and they did that for years.
Well, obviously they were safe doing it.
Yeah, nobody was hunting.
Maybe
nobody
why.
was hunting with them. Nobody was jacking with them at the refuge, and nobody hunted with them on the Wagner, really. But that was crazy that they flied. But somebody did a study on them to find out where they were going to, and they went all the way to Hagerman Wildlife Refuge. It was absolutely nuts. But that's the stuff that makes waterfowl hunting so neat. I mean, you go shoot a big deer, you can see him on your camera. You have him there. He's there year round, and that's it. These ducks and geese, they may come from Siberia. They may come from Japan. Someone shot a band. I think Jeff Coates and them shot a band from Norway at PEI. What's that stand for? It's by Nova Scotia. Jesus, Prince Edward.
Prince Edward.
Yes, that's where they were hunting at, and they shot a band. I think it was from Norway just the other day. But that's what makes waterfowl hunting so interesting.
We shot outside of Stuttgart a few years ago. I say I wasn't in the group, but I was at the club. A barnacle goose.
Wow.
And they had seen it in the Christmas counts. And my boss at the time, who was in the club, shot it and, started texting everybody, look at this. And it was a barnacle goose. And I got online. I was back at the house and got online, and I'm like, ooh, people are traveling to come see this thing because they spotted it. So we got real quiet real quick. But now it's found. It's a great discussion piece that we have.
We had one here one time, and I saw an emperor goose here one time years ago. I mean, but I sat and I watched birds a lot, so I look for something. And it's funny, the other outfitter right here, Justin, my friend and stuff, they'll be like, "Ooh, we saw Lewistic Canada." And yeah, we saw it too. And we're all it was in the decoys today. It got out before we saw it and stuff. It's really weird how a bird that looks so weird can go in and out of your spread. Nobody notice it till it's gone. Just about.
Yeah,
you'd think that's the first thing you would notice.
Yeah, you would, and you would think they wouldn't make it quite as long because of that.
And they do all the time. So,
but yeah, so shot a band today, shot a band yesterday, and last year we went all year and didn't get one. So we're probably ready for another drought. Is what I would.
We'll kill a banded bird. 2025.
You know that we can't keep this up. So
no, not at all. As a waterfowl expert like you are, because you are the chief event fundraiser for DU now, right? Got a duck question for you, David. Why do you only hear about people shooting blonde mallard hens? Do the mallard drakes are they never blonde?
I do not know the answer to that, but it is a interesting question because everyone I've ever seen is
me
a
too.
hen.
And I've always wondered about that.
I'm gonna get an answer for y'all on that because not a biologist by training, but I hang out with the best business. And I have never, I don't know, but I'm going to get an answer and I'm going to send it to you on your next show. You can say, here's the answer to our question.
I'm going to guess. Can I make a guess on why?
Yes.
It must only be on the X chromosome of whatever gene gets messed up. It must just be on the X chromosome.
It's a very good logical answer, probably. But we've got a Canada goose in the studio that is it's a blonde Canada goose. Basically, it's a color phase when it's light.
We don't know if it's a male or female.
We don't know. It could be a female, but I've never seen a mallard drake in the blonde phase. It's always mallard hens. And by gosh, I want one day. That's one thing. That's my trophy duck to ever get.
We might have a blonde mallard drake, so I might have been wrong. Okay. You get your answer and send it to us. How about that?
I will.
That'll be better.
Oh.
Were y'all talking about the big snowstorm that's coming?
We just kind of discussed a little bit. It's supposed to be getting real cold. So are y'all don't even open up there? Y'all's duck season don't open until the Saturday of Thanksgiving or the Saturday before or after, right?
The Saturday before. So I hunt in Arkansas, and that will be the 19th, which is the Saturday before. Tennessee is the Saturday after. I don't hunt much in Tennessee. But spec season is in right now, and our drought has created a very challenging spec season. A lot of them got to Arkansas for a couple of weeks. They were doing their thing. It was normal. And then all of a sudden, 2,000, 3,000 bird roosts decided to join up. And your average roost in Arkansas right now, this is just based on what I've heard, it's a couple of 100,000 birds.
Wow. Holy cow.
Isn't easiest to hunt.
No.
Right. Oftentimes that's a lot of competition. So we did not have a great opener. We certainly took birds home, but I would say that it was less successful than the previous few years due to our dry conditions here.
If this winter storm is as big as they're talking, I mean, it's Canada to Nebraska basically. If it blankets that much area, this ought to be this should be one of the biggest winter storms that we've had in the last how long?
For a long time. I mean, for November.
For November, I should say.
For November. Yes. Yeah, for November, yes. Without a doubt. I've been making phone calls to people I know from Montana to Iowa to Kansas. What are you seeing? What are you doing? Calling my friends in St. Louis. How's your hunting? And I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you this much. I looked at Minot stuff right now, and I'm a 10-day out guy on when I'm watching my weather and I don't look at Minot's weather until it's October. And then I watch it every freaking day from October through the end of waterfowl season. And I noticed that.
What are you doing?
I'm going to throw this over there.
Thank you.
Okay. I noticed that, their 10-day, they have another dip where it gets lower again. So they're gonna go from I think they're 17 or 18 today is the high in snow, and then it's 15 the next day, or I can look at it real quick. I'll tell you exactly. It's 24 today is the high with a 30% chance of snow. Snow all day tomorrow. 15 is the high. 15 Friday, 15 Saturday, 15 Sunday. It's going to get up to 26 degrees Wednesday. Then it's going to be 18 again on that next Friday. So this is the kind of shit we had in the 70s. You'd have a front and it would get cold and then it would get cold again.
So this is I can't remember for the past several years to see sustained cold like they're about to have up there. I mean, all the shallow water's gone. I mean, all the shallow waters in Canada's gone based on what happened last weekend. It would surprise people how many mallards and goldeneye and things like that stick around on the rivers. But the majority of the birds are going to have to move because of this weather. And what's really important is it's coming with snow.
Yes. Yeah. And that hasn't happened.
Cover food.
Yeah. That's the main driver is the snow cover.
And see, Kansas, like Great Bend, Kansas, I'm looking at it. They're 73 today, 62 tomorrow, 30s for the high Friday, 40s Saturday, 50 Sunday, then back in the 30s on Monday. And then it's going to warm up to 48 next Thursday. Then it's going to be like 40 again Friday with a 19 as a low. So we're going to get another dip there. Well, once we get these northern birds, and we haven't had this in a while, every front we get, you're going to get a fresh set of birds, Yep. And we haven't done that. The last couple of years, it gets cold, and then it's 75 degrees here in Texas again for 4 days, and then we get another front. And hell, the last couple of years, we've had a north wind, and it's not even cold. It's 70 degrees, 65 with the north wind. Well, this is what we've been wanting as waterfowl hunters. This is the first legit, and I hope it continues all the way through Christmas and into January. But this is going to be one of the years, if it keeps us up, it's really going to freeze up north. And we're going to get some snow, and that snow's going to crust over. And that's right. That's good for everybody that wants to shoot a green-headed duck.
And for me, the big important thing is it's happening early and not mid-January.
Yeah.
Because I am a big believer that once winter solstice gets here right before Christmas, and the days start getting longer, the birds are trying to get back north when the days start getting longer.
Right.
And if you don't pick them up in big numbers before, this is, again, my belief, if you don't pick them up in big numbers before Christmas, then it takes a massive storm for them to go south, because they're wired to try to start getting north. So
right.
I'm excited. I mean, I'm talking to people on the Louisiana coast that are, good gosh, at the ducks we're seeing. I'm talking to people on the Texas coast, and everything's kind of happening the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
When you have regular weather.
David's been hanging out with biologists. You can tell he's got the longer days. A lot of people, you explain that to them, they're like, "Huh? Yeah. Once them days start getting longer, that duck's wired to not want to go south. He's going to want to go north." I think
once you get to like January 5th and 10th, you get anything past that, it's going to take something major. Because they know I'll just hunker down where I am. I'll make the best of it,
stay right here.
and it's going to pass, and then I'll just continue heading north. But anything. What's the solstice on, like the 21st or something like that?
December 21st, yes.
And then it takes 4 or 5 days where it kind of stays the same. And then after Christmas, the days start getting longer. You get that first weekend of January, forget about it. Like they are where they are, and that's where they made it to this year.
I'll even tell people that are coming to hunt with me at the end of January, they're like, "Well, what temperature is it going to be?" I'm like, "Well, hopefully it'll be in the 70s. What do you mean? And I said, because I want to shoot green-winged teal at the end of the year.
Right.
And if we get in the 70s, all those birds will start coming up north out of Louisiana. They'll be fresh when they hit us. Of course, everybody that comes to Arkansas wants to kill a mallard, and I get it, right? I totally get it. But some of my best late season hunts have been when it warms up. Let's just let it get warm, and come on. It'll bring the pintails up and the green-winged teal up, and some mallards that made it down that far. But I think this year it could be totally different. We're looking at weather patterns that we had back in the late 90s, early 2000, when we were getting regular winters every single year, pushing those birds down, freeze line going into mid Missouri. And once their season ends, covering up with snow and ice, and everybody gets a shot at them.
I want to live another season before I die of 1982 again, or 83, whatever year it was, when I was a kid and we shot black ducks in West Texas, and it was cold. There was a big vortex we had before the one we had a couple of years ago, and it happened at around Thanksgiving time, and December was absolutely amazing. I saw things in my lifetime that, when I say the good old days, that's the days I remember. We had a slough that we hunted that's still up here. It's probably 300 or 400 acres, and it had a water hole in it that I'm going to say was maybe 2 acres at the max. And you could walk to the edge of it, and the ice was about 8 to 12 inches thick. It was so cold. And we had live decoys, because those little grebes and stuff would stay there. And when you'd walk up to it, they'd dive under. And as soon as you'd leave, they'd all pop back up. So you had live decoys. And we shot greenheads coming into that thing like crazy. But it was green wings and green-winged teal. But it was absolutely amazing. But for that whole year was just amazing duck hunting, because everything up north was froze. The freeze line was south of us even. But man, anywhere they kept up.
82, I saw the Gulf of Mexico freeze.
That was the year. That was it.
Yep. Down in North Florida, my uncle took me. We were going up in a creek, and he started hollering and yelling, and the airboat was up on ice.
Wow.
But it was fine. We were safe, but it didn't even move birds out of there. We sat there all morning, and he said, "I never thought I'd see this." They have moved south of Tallahassee, Florida, because the freeze line had come all the way that far south.
That was an amazing. I want to live through. I want to see that winter again one year, is what it is, and that's what I'm hoping. And maybe this year we'll just have a normal winter. It would be just nice to. Could you imagine being a snowmobile salesman in the Dakotas the last 10 years?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, there's just none to have.
No. And I remember as a kid growing up, we would get specs early, just like we always do, but then they would leave. They would go to South Texas and Mexico, and then they would be replaced here with the lesser Canada goose. Well, through years of warm winters, the Canada goose is staying further and further north of here. Do you know, does a big group of specs, do they even make it to Mexico anymore like they used to? Because that was always the joke. They'd come back with a tan and a little bit of an accent in January.
I know it's fewer of them, for the simple fact of how many more birds are now wintering in the Mississippi versus the Central Flyway. And a lot of that is due to that rice agriculture loss down there on the Katy Prairie, which there is no rice anymore. Louisiana's lost so much of their rice. A lot of those birds are just going straight to Arkansas.
Right.
And everybody's read articles about it or they've heard about it, seen it online, but it's there. In the past 20 years, there has been a huge migration shift of specks east because of food. And that, they're going to go to rice. Right. Or a big part of that population will. So I bet not many make it to Mexico anymore. I know my compadres around Houston that I used to chase specks with tell me, no, we don't even mess with them anymore. There's an occasional flyby or something like that, but they're not going out and setting spec spreads for a spec only hunt the way that we used to do it back in the mid 2000s, 15 years ago.
They have a bunch of specs now that stay around San Antonio. There's a big group of specs that say, I want to say Choke Canyon Lake or one of them lakes right down there holds a bunch of specs.
Yeah.
And they said every year they've gotten more and more of a Uvalde area and all that down there. Somewhere down in there, and I know I'm going to be right, and somebody's going to call and correct me, and that's fine. But somewhere around San Antonio, within 100 miles of San Antonio, there's a big population of specks. I think they got 20 or 30,000 birds are staying down there now.
And the specks are thriving in the breeding. Like everything that I hear, people in Canada, like they've got specks everywhere up there right now. So they're doing well.
Are y'all shooting young birds this
year? The pictures I got today. So we shot 24 this morning, and we shot, I can count the mature ones.
I don't think you can count the bars, though.
Yeah, you can.
I don't think a bars is just, I don't think you can judge.
Yes, it means it's a mature bird, a 2-year-old bird, at least.
It has to be 2 years old to have the specs on it.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Half, exactly half. We shot 12 with bars, and then we shot 12 that didn't have anything.
That's a nice mix.
Yeah.
The banded bird we shot,
there was a good hatch.
The banded bird we shot did not have. It was not a tar belly. I mean, it had specks on it, but it wasn't like fully blacked out.
It was a different bird. I've never seen a bird like it. It looked like almost like polka dots almost or something on it. It was a cool bird. I would have mounted it if the guy didn't take it with him. It was a really cool bird.
And it's white on its beak, went way back into its head, almost to its eyeballs.
So my understanding is that's a better judge of the age of a bird, is the white on its top knot there, than the bars on it. And that a full, black-bellied spec doesn't necessarily mean that it's a 18-year-old bird.
That's just genetics, isn't it? More than anything, the bars on its belly? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and with all waterfowl, you see an old blue-winged teal, even some mallards. I mean, they're like, they'll start turning a little gray, like we all do, I guess.
We talked about this. I can't remember what episode it was, but a guy had a specklebelly in, like, he had like an aviary or something like that, and he took pictures of it every year, and the bars on its chest stayed the same pretty much from year to year. But like you said, the white on its head, it kind of receded more and more every year. Right. They're fascinating birds. And it's taken me a while to fall in love with the specklebelly just because I love lesser Canada geese, but they're fun to go after. I mean, when they do it, they put on a show.
Hey, I got a rule.
And when they want to respond to calling, that's what fascinates me, is I can hunt the same group of birds, and one day they won't listen to me, and the next day every single group will turn and come in. So I love that aspect of it. But when they're right and they want to respond to you, to me, it's better than mallards. I mean, it's better than anything. I love them. I fell in love with them when I lived in Texas, and I'm feel blessed that right now I'm hunting a place where there's enough of them to target them and go dry field hunt.
It's almost like you can call to one bird. Like you can pick them out too. And then you can call at that bird, and you can get him to kind of, either he'll come in by himself or he might talk his buddies into doing something stupid. But my experience with lesser Canadas, you have that to an extent, but most of the time they're just making noise. I mean, they're just these noisy critters that are talking over one another and just it's
In a
race to the bottom.
Yep.
But with Specklebellies, you can isolate a little bit more and pull that one to you.
I got a serious question for you, David.
Yep.
Are the people in Tennessee, have they recovered from that football game Saturday?
Oof.
You know, the one good thing about Memphis, or one of the good things about Memphis, is that we are a melting pot of a lot of different fan bases. And I do know a lot of Tennessee grads and fans here. I don't think they have fully recovered, but I know a lot of people here who were just as happy with the result of that game as they were disappointed. So college football season is fun here because of it sits. I think the SEC office should be in Memphis because it sits in the middle of everybody. I guess South Carolina would kind of be an outlier over there, and maybe the University of Florida. But it's fun this time of year, and there's a lot of shit talking that goes on in offices all across this city.
Yeah. Now they're not even in that playoff race now. I think they're number 5.
No, they'll be right back though, because TCU's not going to beat Texas, Baylor, and they got 3 games left, and I can't remember who all 3 of them are. But if TCU wins all 3 of their remaining games, they deserve to get to play in the college playoffs. But they won't. But
Absolutely.
The SEC is going to win anyways. I mean, it's just such a big, like when Tennessee and Alabama played that day. For a kid to get a play in that football game, they don't know how blessed they are to witness 10,000 people right on top of you. Yeah. It's just the SEC is unlike any place else, and I'm not an SEC guy, so I'm not a SEC homer. But there's not a better atmosphere for football than SEC and Texas high school football are the 2 best places to watch a game. I think a true football rivalry is amazing there.
I went to Auburn, so I'm not talking much shit this year. But I would agree with you. I've had the opportunity to attend a lot of games around the conference, and I know for a lot of in Ohio State has phenomenal football.
Yes.
Michigan has phenomenal football. But there is something I think about just maybe SEC fans just don't have enough to do in their lives, and it's like a soap opera, and so much of your life surrounds what happens every Saturday. But they take it very seriously, and just all the traditions that go around it. It's neat. It's cool. It's a neat time of year when you're winning. When you're not winning, man, I'm polishing decoys and patching waiters and everything else I can not to watch another loss. But everybody eventually comes.
I can't imagine any kid that's a high school senior and getting recruited, and you have a chance to go, whether it's Ole Miss, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, wherever, and you get recruited to one of them schools and go to a couple of Saturday home games. I don't know how you don't go there, because it's unlike any other deal. Ohio State, them fans, you either hate them or you love them. They have a great program. They play as many people in the NFL as anywhere, but they week in and week out don't have to deal with the stuff that you do in the SEC. Nobody gives a crap about Indiana and Ohio State usually. But if Ole Miss is playing Kentucky, it still has a big fanfare to it.
Yeah.
And it's sold out.
Yeah, it's still a big game.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's a neat deal. Let's talk about what Ducks Unlimited is fixing to do. Y'all got is it y'all's biggest fundraiser you do every year?
It's the largest auction that we do every year, and it's called Into the Vault. You have to say it right. Into the Vault. This is the 3rd annual Into the Vault national online auction, and it's a product of the pandemic. We were trying to figure out ways to raise money. When we were told you can't leave your houses. We were trying to figure out ways to raise money, and it dawned on our CEO, Adam Putnam, and me one day walking in our warehouse. We looked up and saw some boxes, and he said, "What's in those?" I said, "I think that's some artwork that was donated a few years ago." And he said, "Get it out of the racks and sell it." And I said, "Well, we're going to do a national online auction, and if we have to pull some things off the walls here at the office to raise money, keep our conservation efforts going, we're going to do it. And it has turned in to where we just thought we were going to sell a few items. The first year in 2020 was the largest auction we had ever had. Then last year became the largest auction we ever had. And I think this year will end up being the largest auction we ever had, with probably over $500,000.
Wow.
What's the weirdest thing you've sold?
In that, the most interesting thing I sold, y'all seen the federal, I think it was a 1959 federal duck stamp that has King Buck in it.
The only dog ever on the stamp.
Right, exactly. So Maynard Reese did that art, and we were donated a piece of art that Maynard Reese had hand-colored himself, a reproduction of the King Buck federal duck stamp. And I think there were only 25 of those in existence. And we sold a recolored version of King Buck. And I think for me in this sale, and I've sold a lot of weird stuff in events, but in this sale, this one event, that's probably the most interesting item that we've sold in it. But we have some every year, because what it's turned into is I've told our 2,400 chapters across the country, if you have some treasures that you want to donate, we'll sell them like a consignment and your chapter will get credit for it, because our chapters are Class A type 2 personalities. I mean, they want to beat their neighbor. It's like Texas high school football. So what we've been able to do is create this this platform where they can sell stuff that they've had donated to them, or maybe something that a volunteer owns. He's getting older, she's getting older, you know, they're moving, they're downsizing. Well, if my chapter can get credit for it and we can raise a lot of money for DU, we're going to donate it to this auction. And this year, I think we have more than 50 collectible Ducks Unlimited shotguns of the year. We've actually got some packages I've never seen. Back in the early 80s, we had a flyaway series. And we have one of those series, 4 guns that we're going to be selling. Over 20 Terry Redland prints. Some of them are the classics. Some really interesting shotguns. I've got a 4-gauge.
Wow, 4-gauge.
Which obviously nobody's going to take and shoot. This for collectible purposes only, but a Jones Underlevel is the name of it. It's a 4-gauge. I've held it. I wouldn't want to shoot it more than 3 or 4 times a morning if I lived back in the day. We've got an 8-gauge that we're selling that was made in London that was donated to us. A Winchester Model 42 410. There's not a lot of those that are floating around out there. Model 12 16 gauge that is nickel plated, which is a really interesting looking firearm. And each year is kind of different. You know, some years we have a lot of decoys. Some years we have a lot of firearms. We had a donation of sports memorabilia come out of Kansas this year. And it just, these things came in lots, and it was blowing my mind because it's all signed. It's Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning, Bart Starr, Brett Favre. I mean, it's all of the big names, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, that people would want to collect. And I think a lot of people would probably be interested in buying for Christmas presents. And so many, we have over 600 items a year, and so much of the contact that I get from people who are interested in buying something comes in of, you know, how quick are you going to ship it? Because I'm buying this for my grandson or my granddaughter. And we ship within 3 days of the sale ending. It opens on the 21st of November, which is the Monday before Thanksgiving, and then closes the 2 Saturdays later on December the 3rd. Those are the dates this year, November 21st to December 3rd. And I actually monitor all of the bidding on Thanksgiving Day, because I don't want to burden any of my staff with having to you know, get up from eating dinner with their family or whatever. And it's become a tradition with me and my wife and my boys that when we sit down to eat Thanksgiving dinner, and we do it a little later in the afternoon, the bidding starts really going on Thanksgiving Day. Mm-hmm. And I think it's people that are bored at their in-laws and, you know, can't be here. something like that. So we monitor the bidding while we're eating Thanksgiving dinner, which has kind of become a fun tradition at our house. But it's neat. It's a lot of neat old stuff that that people just still want to collect.
I don't know those mugs. Did you just get those or what?
Which mugs?
The mugs that I got. There's a traveling mug. That's a Ducks Unlimited traveling mug, and it looks like it came straight out of 1989. Like, and I've used it every morning. I don't know if you sent that to him or what.
You sent that to me with the Gold Star stuff. I think there was 2 of them in there. I don't know if it was supposed to be there or not, but they look like they're retro. It looks like something my dad would have had. Remember the old coffee mug that had the mallard on it you could buy at Walmart and had just a plain mallard and their Canada Goose? It looks like something like that.
Yeah, it's got a camo print on it. I think it's Advantage Wetland or something like that. It's got Ducks Unlimited on the bottom.
You sent me 2 of them. They're plastic.
Yep.
Well, I've got one and I use it every morning.
Good.
So
I'm glad you did.
So I don't know if that came out of the vault. I'm sure it didn't. But
it was in the gold. Cool. It was in the Gold Star deal, and we put all that stuff up and let those kids get what they wanted. And those kids looked at it like it was trash.
I looked at it like, listen, kid, that's a collectible. Even if you don't know that it is, I'm taking it.
Where'd the other one go?
Stoner has it.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're cool.
Now every guy's gonna be like, "Hey, can you see if the Ducks Unlimited guy can send us some more of those retro mugs?" Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
I'll have to go back and look. I don't know. I can't remember which ones those were.
I think I did a video. I think I put a video of it on my Instagram. Everybody loved it on Instagram. I got
a picture of it.
I got so many messages when I put it on Instagram. They're like, "That is badass." Like, where can I get it?
But you just sent 2 of them. Is what's funny about the whole thing. There was 2 went. Everybody wants the Yeti. This is the old gas station coffee mug you buy.
Exactly. That's what makes it.
You know what? I think those got sent by mistake.
Never telling you.
Out of the mail.
Yep. Well, there's 2 of them.
We've got 2 of them now. I don't know if you can see this. But that is it. I don't know. I can't see my camera.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those were I'll see if I have any more, but those are that is vintage. Yeah. You would call that vintage.
Let me see that.
Yes, it's vintage, 100%.
I need to get one back now so I can put it in my case.
Now Jeff feels gypped because he didn't.
I'm going to go look for some more. I'm going to see if I can find some. I in the mailroom, and I wonder if something got sat down by it and got sent out with it.
Either way.
A lot of the stuff we sell, we get all these items in every year with folks trying to be in the Ducks Unlimited package. And you're looking at 1,000 items and only 60 of them make it into the package that each chapter sells. And some of these items we sell in this sale are literally one-of-a-kind items that were made. They were not selected. The company says keep it and sell it and make some money off of it. So there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Not as cool as those cups, but there's some pretty cool stuff in there that isn't necessarily a $500 Terry Redland or a $2,000 shotgun. I mean, there's some stuff that the bidding will start at $2 or $3.
Yeah. What about? This is my question, the strategy on this. Let's say I get on there and I find something, because I'm a collector of shit. I can't.
Yeah, you want a coffee mug.
Well, I'd put that in my deal. Yeah. But I love old decoys and stuff, but I'm not going to pay $2,000 for a duck decoy. I get as much enjoyment out of buying one for $75 that some guy hand carved that's got scratches and stuff all over it. But let's say there's something I want on the DU auction here. Is it best to wait till the last minute? Does it have a time, like it's going to end at 3:00 and you better put your bid in at 2 minutes and 59, with 2 hours, 59 seconds and 30 seconds left? Or how does that work? Do you have guys waiting to see somebody bumps them?
Yeah, it works both ways. At the end of any online auction, there's a rush where people they're waiting to see and they'll go and make a bid and see if anybody matches it, and then and then they'll hit it again and see it, and they're just trying to feel out how many people might want to bid against them. The challenge in a online auction is that it's closed by a computer, and we actually say this in our reminder email that goes out to all of our members. is on the Saturday night that it closes at 8:00 Eastern, 7:00 Central. And we don't press the button. The computer shuts that off when it's 8:00 or 7:00. And if somebody is in the process of bidding, they lose the bid. And so what we tell people is, if you have something you want and you want it bad, put your maximum dollar bid in about 10 minutes before it closes. And then, okay, that's how much I was going to spend on that.
Right.
Because inevitably we get, there's items that you'll have 30, 40 people bidding on, and you'll just sit there and watch it, and it's just getting hit and hit and hit and hit, and then it closes, and you go, we're about to get emails on that item because somebody's going to say, but I got my bid in. But, we put it there in the rules that we don't close it. We can't go back and do those things. Whatever the computer sends us is the bid that we're going to honor and where we're going to send it.
I've been on eBay and done that shit before. It's like, damn it, computer refresh.
I need to see where I'm at. Right.
It gets going so fast. We have watch parties. Usually I'm traveling and, I'll be with a group, and on Saturday night I said, all right, let's open it up. We can watch the back end of this thing and have watch parties, and you'll be getting so many bids you can't even keep up with them, which is great because every time somebody's bids, that's more money towards conservation.
Right.
So
what
more money into the breeding grounds.
What do you have a pretty good feel of like what's going to be the hot item, or is there always something that you're like, well, I didn't see that catching on fire like it did?
If you take the money out of it, like we've got some original artwork. Scott Storm, who's a well-known waterfowl artist, did an original just for this sale. It's gorgeous. It's mallards coming down into a traditional looking marsh. That's going to sell for a lot of money because there's a lot of Scott Storm original art collectors out there. But I like looking at some of the smaller items that are just off the wall. Like last year we had who played Barney Fife on Andy Griffith?
Don Knotts.
Don Knotts. It was a Don Knotts signed headshot, and the number of people bidding on that. I mean, we put it in there almost as a joke.
Right.
And I think the thing ended up selling for $350
for a Don Knotts signed picture.
All it took was 2 people wanting that Don Knotts signed headshot. We had about 5 that were really bidding on it. But every year there's something like that. The first year it was an old duck ashtray, and it wasn't used, but it was an ashtray. Like, the kind we saw our grandmama use or our mama using growing up, and it was in the shape of a duck. It had never been used. And we, it was, again, middle of COVID, and I said, put everything in there. Mm-hmm. And we were laughing about it. We started it at a $5 bid. I think it sold for $175. So there's always that item that you just go, we never could have guessed that it was going to do that. We've got a signed Leonard Skinner greatest hits. So this is after the plane crash. But we have a signed, when they put the greatest hits out after the band reformed, we've got the LP, and all the members at that time have signed it. So I'm looking at that one. I'm wondering if that one's going to be the one this year that we go, oh, we didn't know we had that many Leonard Skinner fans out there.
Right. There's a lot of them. I'd like to have the Don Knotts still. I would have been on that.
I like the ashtray.
That would have been cool to have around here.
It's like the leg on A Christmas Story.
Yeah,
like,
just
stuff like that. It's an ashtray.
I'd rather have Don Knotts. People go like, you like Barney Five? Hell,
no, you could put that ashtray right over there by that door. Oh, that'd be a conversation starter right there.
Well, you can probably buy it from another one. You probably look one up.
Yeah, find it on eBay. But I don't even know if does anybody even have it? I hadn't seen an ashtray in forever. I know vehicles don't come with them anymore.
I don't.
Or the old cigarette lighter still comes with the hole, but you don't get the lighter.
There was a day you could actually fly on an airplane and they had an ashtray in your chair on your seat.
Ashtray in the seat chair.
Sure did. Everybody did. God, could you imagine flying with people smoking? Well, that would be miserable.
There was what was the vehicle that had the ashtray in the back door?
All of them had ashtrays
in the back door,
or back door, or on the back seat. They had a place for an ashtray.
What did he drive? Whatever he drove, she had ashtrays everywhere.
All them old cars did. You young people don't understand that.
We don't.
I guess 9 out of 10 people smoked in the 60s and early 70s. Because I
know everybody, I think almost everybody in my family on my father's side smoked. I'm thinking back to like 73, 74. They certainly don't Everybody's, oh, no, we're going to live forever and they're healthy now. But I think everybody did it. I mean, just everybody did it.
Have you watched the show? I watched Gator the other day, Burt Reynolds' show from the early 70s. You know what? There's not a fat person there. If you look in a crowd
and everybody
smoked and drank Coca-Cola,
mm-hmm.
and they smoke like crazy. Nobody was fat. Everybody was healthy. Our smokeless society is not near as healthy as it was in the smoking 70s.
Not near as thin.
But they were skinnier in the 70s. Of course, I think that was back when they ate butter and they fried French fries in lard, and probably looking back on it, it's probably healthier than some of the stuff we eat now trying to be healthy.
Yeah, a big and tall shot back then had 2X clothes.
Right.
So that's normal now. I mean, that's 2X and 3X is a normal sizes on everything is 2X, 3X. You had to look for something back then.
That's what we sell most of. When people buy shirts out here, it's 2X.
Yeah, that's a 2X, extra large 2X and 3X are a number selling. You don't hardly ever sell a small, unless it's to a woman.
For a wife.
You don't find very many small guys. But back in the 70s, if you watched any picture of the 60s or 50s, everybody was thin. I mean, everybody was built
look at the offensive lineman back then.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, 180-pound offensive lineman was a big dude.
My dad graduated high school in 63, and he was 6'3", and he weighed 215 pounds, and he was a big man. Had a full ride to Nebraska to play football as a defensive lineman. And he was the biggest guy in their conference where he played high school ball at. He said by a long way. He was a monster compared to everybody else. He would be a damn running back now, or a defensive back probably. I mean, you see 6'2", 6'3" safeties nowadays, but you don't see. There ain't no damn defensive lineman weighing 6'3", 215 now.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, I was about my son who, when he was his senior year, he was 6'1", 225. And was small for a nose guard on his football team.
Very undersized.
Yeah, 100%. This is interesting though, because it's cool that, I mean, had it not been for COVID, people would just be sitting on these items. Like there wouldn't.
Yeah, well, and we had never done an online. We had rules not to do online auctions before COVID. It was no, you don't do that. If you want to participate in a DU auction, you have to come to one of the events. And before we did this first into the vault, we were doing online auctions. We were forced to do them because we had to. We had a warehouse full of merchandise on March 20th. And so we quickly changed our rule. And what we uncovered was that people still want to eBay it. Mm-hmm. This from home, and they still want to go to Ducks Unlimited events. So we have found a good marriage between the two. We have online auctions all times of the year now that our chapters hold, but this is the big one that we do nationally every year, and we do it over Thanksgiving because of the belief that it does. And I've proven this in talking to some of the buyers that it offers entertainment for people when they are done with Thanksgiving dinner. And of course, up north, a lot of the hunting seasons are done by then.
Right.
They're going into the winter doldrums, and so many of these things are purchased as Christmas presents. A lot of the first of state stamps that we do, a lot of the federal duck stamps that we sell in it, people are buying it for the grandchildren because they were born that year. Most of the first of states came out in the 80s. And 90s. And so there's a lot of that. They're trying to create a family heirloom. And you can't get those. It's hard to find a first of state now. But we have over 30 of them in this sale this year that have just been donated to us. It's really a neat thing. It's fun to watch. It's fun to put together. It's something completely different.
I'm excited to watch it because listen, I got to go travel for Thanksgiving. So, there's going to come that time where I got nothing else to say to the family. And it's just like, get on my phone and see what's selling.
Last year, I got because there's something in it. If you have any questions, push this button. Uh-huh. And again, I'm on call on Thanksgiving Day. That's what I do. And so I receive a question, and I just finished with Thanksgiving lunch. And so I walked out back. sat down in a chair on the patio. It was real warm last Thanksgiving, and answered this guy's question. And he goes, I can't believe that you're answering me on Thanksgiving Day. And I said, well, I just finished dinner. Not a lot going on. The kids are watching a movie, whatever. And I said, what are you doing? I mean, I wanted to find out. He said, I'm at the in-laws and just trying to find something to do. And he was bidding on a 50th anniversary shotgun of the year, which is a Browning A5. And it's one of the most sought after firearms, one of our older firearms that people can have. So we're going back and forth. And finally I say, well, where are you located? He said, Memphis. I said, well, gosh, I'm here too. You know, who are you? And, you know, what do you do? He was a CEO of one of the banks here in town. And it was really cool because he said, I'm bored and I needed something to do this afternoon. And I remembered y'all were having this thing and I got on. Now I can't quit bidding on all this stuff.
What do you remember what that A5, what they kind of go for?
They go for a lot. Last year, the A5 sold for $15,000.
You gonna buy one of those, Andy? The guy did send me a message today of a place that's got that Benelli you want.
Yeah, so one of our hunters, I'm fascinated with kind of those old guns, but one of my hunters the past 3 days had a Super Black Eagle 1, and that thing is a tank. And I shot it, and I loved it, so that's what I'm gonna look for. The original.
I've got one. They're awesome. They feel different.
They do. 100%.
The original Super Black. Well, there's a reason they feel different, but the original SBE, it's a different feel when you put it to your shoulder.
Why did they get away from it? I don't understand. They go to all this new and improved stuff, and it's just like, listen, what you had was fantastic.
But they had to change the mechanism on it because it floated a shell.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's exactly what happened. I forgot about that. That's exactly why.
I did not do that, by the way.
There's one for sale.
I shot 3
the
whole time.
Did you see that, the guy? Did he send it to you also?
He sent it to me. I was busy, and I hadn't got to... Or he didn't send it. He told me a website to go look at.
Guy told me, he said, listen, here's to make good Andy a good Christmas present. I said, listen, I'm telling my wife right now, we just need to buy presents for grandkids. We don't need to buy kids. Our kids have everything they need. They can buy their own shit.
And my friend, his dad, he goes on these places and he wants, that's what he wants. He looks for the original Super Black Eagle. They've got the 2 and the 3, and they actually sold the 1 about 10 years ago, and they've regretted it ever since.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I've got one that's a 26-inch barrel that I use for when I go into the timber. Yeah. It's not my everyday gun, but it's different. It's a neat gun. Of course, gun took the whole waterfowling world by storm. And there's a little bit of a DU history in there. We did not have that gun as a gun of the year. We have an SBE 3 as a gun of the year right now, but Benelli wanted to push that gun and build its popularity through our events. And this is when I was a regional director. And for a while, they shorted the market, but let us have as many as we wanted. So when I was a regional director and holding events, I had people coming to my events for the sole purpose of buying a raffle ticket to win a Super Black Eagle when they first started hitting the market. And it was fascinating to watch. Guys would drive 50, 60 miles and then beg me, please put that thing on the live auction tonight because I want to take it home. And, you know, I can't guarantee if you put it on a raffle. So I started putting it on live auctions. They knew what the retail, and I think back then it was $1,400, $1,500. Yeah. They knew what the retail value was. Now it was DU stamped, but I could sell that thing for $3,000, $4,000 because they couldn't get it anywhere else.
What? Okay, that made me think of something. Y'all do the card game. You pass out 52 cards. They pay $20 a card or whatever it is, and they get to pick an item off. When you do a gun raffle like that, how many tickets are you selling on it?
So it's all up to the chapter. I mean, some chapters do a deck of cards and they might charge $50. They might charge $100. Some chapters do a goose band raffle on it, which is 100 goose bands, and it's all up to them on how much they charge. And because a lot of that goes into what the value of the shotgun is or whatever gun the firearm might be that they're looking to raffle off.
Well, I was thinking a guy could have bought every raffle ticket. If back then you were selling 50 or 100 goose bands at $25 a piece, you were getting $2,500 for a $1,500 shotgun. I'm sure Benelli was giving them to y'all or some to you a lot cheaper than that. But oh boy, I'm gonna buy every band. Have you ever had a guy he tried to buy every raffle ticket?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just work out a deal with them that they come in, and if they're the first one, then they can buy them all up. If I'm not mistaken, I was doing what I would do most of the time was a 52 card cut, meaning, tear the card in half, and it was $100 a card. That's how hot that firearm was then. So
$5,200.
Yeah, $5,200 on a raffle. But there were so many people coming to the events to buy them that finally I just said, let's put them on the auction. And then Benelli, and let's get into some firearm marketing now. Then Benelli came out with the Nova, and it was the most popular sought after pump shotgun since the 870 because you could own a Benelli, but it was a pump shotgun. It wasn't the SBE or even an M1, which was the first one they had. Not many people shoot one of those. I have one. I love it.
Which one do you like better, the M1 or the SBE?
Actually, of all my Benellis, I love my Montefeltro the most. That's what I shoot every day is a Montefeltro. But it's because of just the way that particular gun fits me. But I probably like my M1 better than my SBE3 because I like a lower profile. I like to look over a lower profile.
There's one in the closet back there.
An M1?
There's one of them. I don't know what it is. I don't shoot automatics. So
a Nova's what I shot forever until I got my Maxis 2 last year. That's just because out here, I'll take a gun most days. I've been taking my Maxis. I leave it in the case. Like it's got that pretty Cerakote and all that other stuff. And it's an expensive shotgun. I don't want to get beat it all to shit. But that's why I want the Super Black Eagle, because the one I shot the last 3 days, I mean, the markings on it, and you could just tell that it had been beat to shit, but it's still gonna shoot 3 times, or if you've still got the old mechanism, 4 times if you want to go down that route, which I don't advise you because it's 3. But the Nova, whatever. If it gets dirty, I'll clean it. I don't care. It's $400. I'll get another one.
Right.
Worst goes worst.
And I know that silica that y'all have out there is a little bit different. Yes. That's wear and tear on a gun that you don't get in a lot of other places in the country. But what's great about the Benelli is the gun was created to shoot in the sand. Mm-hmm. I mean, the genesis of all their mechanisms are to be dirty. And I've had a lot of gunsmiths tell me, because I'm the type of person I've got nothing to do. We killed a limit this morning. I've got nothing to do. I'm going to clean my gun. I go, whoa. Don't do that. Let that gun be dirty all year long because it's made to be dirty and shoot better. Which is, I've got my Montefeltro is Cerakoted and it's my beater gun, but I love it.
I can tell you what gun is not made to shoot dirty, and that is the Browning Maxis 2. It is a very pretty gun. And it's nice during turkey season, but when the wind starts blowing and we've got that fine grit sand, and when the wind blows, it's in your teeth and everywhere. You do not want to take the Browning Maxis 2 out for that.
So you have one for sale pretty cheap, is what you're saying?
No. I love that. It's a great shooting gun. Dove hunting, I shot dove with it. It's light. It's it's light. It's solid. It shoots very well.
You shot dove or shot at dove?
I shot at dove. I shot at a lot of dove, and it's a great shooting gun. I love it. But for a beater gun, it ain't it. At least out here. Now I'm sure there's people that take it up north, I'm sure it shoots cold and all that other stuff, but you got to dump a lot of oil into
the best beater gun in the world is a Satori over under, and that's what I use. Yeah. Because if you can close it, you can shoot it.
That's right. It's all enclosed.
Right. And I shoot it. I've shot mine. Mine's got dowel rods on it. I got one that's 30 years old. I've rode a boat with it. And in Alaska, I had to use it as a paddle one time. I've done it at Miller Creek Lake up here. It's been put through hell. But if you can close it, you can shoot it. And they're great shooting guns.
Yep. So what?
But I will say that sand out there is nowhere else.
It's different.
And I've hunted all over. And I mean, when I do hunt out there and I take my Montefeltro, I'm cleaning it when I get home. Just, I mean, that's same, even if the wind's not blowing, it gets in there.
And you can hear it too. Like you pull the action back and it's just, and you're like, oh no, this is not a good situation. What year I want to go back to the Super Black Eagle. Was it like 2000? Was that when it came out? Right around that period?
Yeah, 98, 99, 2000, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I mean, that's before social media. What did they do? Or was it just that they shorted the market and created a buzz? Like, how did people know that, okay, this is the gun that I need?
Magazines.
DU events and magazines. Yeah. So, and I don't know if they intentionally shorted the market. We ordered a certain number of guns. We got our allotment, right? I mean, if DU orders a gun, I mean, we're gonna get our shipments. I think the gun became so popular, and you just had so many waterfowl hunters saying, this is the firearm I've been waiting on all these years, that they couldn't create enough to get into the mom and pop. And this is really pre going to Bass Pro Shop to buy your gun, right? You went to your mom and pop type stores back then. And it was, you could get them at DU events. Like we were ordering one into every event. So people knew that they were going to be able to get that Super Black Eagle. And then for it to have that logo on it, that had the DU logo, for a DU supporter, that just made it a little bit more special.
And I love the look of the things too. I mean, the Super Black Eagle 3 and 2, they're pretty guns too, but like you see the one and it's like it's a tank. And that's what you think.
In 30 years, I never seen a gun have as much attention drawn to it as it did when it first came out. Because when someone would have one, they would show it to everybody.
Looked at it in the parking lot.
Yeah. I mean, there's no gun coming out right now that people are going to pull up to a parking lot and people are going to look at it. Like,
right.
The Browning Synergy, the over-under that they have, I think is a really cool gun. But there's no gun out there right now that some guy's going to pull up in the parking lot and say, hey, JoJo's got the so-and-so, and I'm going to walk out of my office to go look at it.
Right.
But that's the way it was.
That's what it was like. Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. We've got an SBE 320 gauge as our gun of the year right now for calendar year 22. It's the only SBE 320 gauge that has a wood stock and forend. But starting on January 1st, we'll have the SBE 328, which I got to shoot one of those on a pheasant hunt in Minnesota 2 or 3 weeks ago with Boss, which was Boss 3x5s and a 2 3/4 out of that Benelli 28 gauge. And
wicked.
Wow, it's wicked. Yeah. It's wicked. And I'm excited about that being, I wonder how many people will buy that gun of the year and go, okay, I'm going to go shoot it. I actually am going to pull it out of the case and beat it up a little bit.
The guy that I was bumming the Super Black Eagle from, he only shot 28. He hunted 3 mornings, shot Specklebellies, and all he shot was a 28 and was thumping them.
What load was he shooting in it?
The 3.5. Yeah.
The 3.5.
Yeah, that's kind of the standard. And that's all I shoot too is the 3.5 blend. I mean, it's a happy medium. It'll do it's that versatile, do it all load. So I really like the 3.5 blend. But yeah, he shot a 28 gauge the whole time. 20 to 30, 40 yards, not a problem at all weekend, 3 days.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it.
Well, and that's all Jeff shoots now. When we were dove hunting, it was 28 the whole time. He'd shoot a 20 every once in a while, but it's just what Boss has done is they've made the sub gauge culture, they've made it pop. And it's great for people that are in up older. Jeff shoots it because it's easier on his shoulder. He don't want to shoot a 12 gauge and get beat to piss, the whole time.
Right.
So he shoots 28 because it's easier on the shoulders.
I had another case of 28s just come in now. I've got more and more customers. We get Bosch drop ships here all the time. We get shells all the time, or shot show, whatever you call them. ammo, whatever it is. We get it from them every day. I get a load from Boss, and today was 28 gauges as customer sent. So more and more people are shooting the sub gauges, which I prefer to shoot a sub gauge.
So that'll be good. When that 28 Benelli that you have, it's gonna go.
Oh, it's hot right now. And just for the exact reasons y'all are saying, for some folks that are, whose shoulders just, been shooting football, baseball, whatever it is, and to be able to shoot a 28. I mean, imagine shooting 28 with steel shot 10 years ago. That wasn't going to be an option, right? But now with, shells like Boss, with what they're able to do, there's a lot of it's a very, 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 that and 410s. If I can get my hands on 410s into an event, we're going to sell the raffle out. I mean, a hunting 410. It's just that's what people are going to.
I like the 28 more than I do the 410s.
Got me because of Boss. Boss actually has enabled me to pull my old 10 gauge side by side out that I shoot number ones out of just for goose hunting for the sole purpose. Everybody else shoots first. Then I'm going to take the last shot as they're going away just to see how far it'll shoot, because it's unbelievable how far it will shoot.
We had
but I'm not going to be able to do that before a couple more years.
We had a guy shooting.
Thankfully, there's only 100 of those in each case. So,
we had a 10 gauge this weekend.
Yeah, he asked before. He's like, "Am I going to piss anybody off if I bring out a 10 gauge?" And it's like, shoot what you want to do. He's like, "I just want to try it." So I don't know. I never heard a report back if he shot anything with it or.
I think we were done so quick every morning he didn't even shoot it. I don't know. I'll ask, but I like the 28 gauge more than I do the 410. The 410 though is a very fun dove gun, but the Boss just makes it a lot of fun. And if I get into some ducks this year, some shooting mallards, I'm probably going to take a 410 just to say I've done it, because I've never shot a limited ducks with a 410 ever.
Well, what a lot of guys in Arkansas are doing is in the timber when your farthest shot's going to be 30 yards. Some of them will even say, okay, this is a 410 hole, right? This is the only thing you're bringing in is a 410. I don't think guys are using them up on Lake Michigan, shoot divers with or something like that. But again, because of the effectiveness of these new loads, it's allowing guys to pull that out and create more of a challenge, or whatever their game.
If you'd have told me 5 years ago that there's a new load going to come out and completely change waterfowl, I'd have thought you was crazy.
Well, 2 years ago, we did a gentleman's hunt, and it was the same thing. It was sub gauges only, 28s and 410s. That's all you're taking.
But 5 years ago, you would have not even thought that was possible to
take 410s.
Well, you had some guys that would still do it, but not very many. But just the whole waterfowl industry, the way Boss has turned it upside down, because from the 3.5 blend, the 20s, the sub gauges, just completely different culture of around the shotgun shells. And you didn't see that before.
Well, think about what they did. I mean, prior to them, it was 3.5. How fast can you get it? Right? How fast you get this steel coming out? And now we're going to change the shape of the steel, and all of that. No doubt it was effective. I shot it. But to do what they've done and go, okay, we're going to have a slower feet per second, and we want you to shoot a 2 3/4, and we're going to start blending this stuff, which I'd never heard of before, except for turkey hunting. So it's unique and impressive.
These young Thundercats like Andy, they don't remember the first years of steel, how bad it was.
What was that, 92?
I don't know, but it was horrible. 93, 94, 92.
Depending on where you were. They didn't roll it all out at the same time?
Yeah, but it was.
No, and then saltwater versus freshwater. Like when I was in high school, I would have, and this is in the 80s, 84 to 88, 87, 88, I would have to shoot steel on freshwater, but could still shoot lead on saltwater.
Really?
And in Florida. If it was public freshwater, you had to shoot steel. And it was bad. It was.
I think in Texas we didn't have to shoot it till 94 94, maybe 93, 94, the first couple of years we went to steel. And there I am a year later, and I'm buying T-shot and F-shot, and it was terrible. Absolutely, you'd shoot a bird, and you knew you heard it, and it was going to die later, but it was bad.
It was they never got the force times mass ratio put together, and
then
it's when they realized, all right, this stuff has to come out really, really fast, that you finally started seeing a little bit of improvement. But I mean, the words that I heard coming out of my father's mouth when we have to shoot it, and this was a guy that shot 2 3/4 inch fives his entire life, lead, and I got a whole new cussing portfolio every Saturday morning.
That's exactly right. We grew up shooting 2 3/4 sixes, hot sixes. My dad reloaded, and the first time I shot Boss, I was like, "Damn, this is like shooting my dad's old hot sixes." It's the same thing.
What when they did it, I guess nobody knew about bismuth. They just went straight to steel.
Yeah, bismuth was my understanding, and maybe this is one of those old wives' tales, but the bismuth thing was created by a shell company employee, rep, whatever, who was sick one day drinking Pepto-Bismol, and just happened to look at the ingredients and went, there's bismuth in this, so I guess bismuth is non-toxic. And the next thing you know, the first bismuth shell was, I think it was the bismuth shot shell.
It was. I've got a box of them in the other room. It was bismuth.
Right.
And the guy's name, they were out of Dallas, Texas, and the guy's name, I think, was Scutch Mason, I think was the guy's name. And they sent me to Alaska one time, and they sent me a case of it, and they sent me with, and it was funny because it only come with either 5 or 10 shells in a box.
10 shells to a box, and it was expensive.
And they sent a case to it when we went to Alaska, and we shot with them, and they work really good. And they come up here. I hunted the guys from Bismuth 2 or 3 or 4 times, but they, it was hard to get a guy to spend that kind of money for shells.
Well, especially on a goose hunt.
Yes.
Where you shoot 15 geese.
Yeah, it was just a hard sell.
And then it was tungsten and Federal. I think Federal made the first tungsten shells, if I'm not mistaken, and they were really good. But again, it was so expensive at the time. And then you started seeing the really high speed steel come out, which was great. It was better than the other stuff, but if you had an old fixed choke barrel, you were done.
Right.
Well, not anymore.
Right.
Nope.
What about the 4 gauge? You said it's a 4 gauge. When was that popular? Or was it ever popular and just something that people had to shoot?
A punt gun, like for market hunters, would use it. They would mount them on the end.
That's
top
a 4
of their,
gauge is a punt gun?
I'm assuming it is. Probably pretty close to it. And they would how big is that thing? Did they mount that, or they hold those?
Yeah, hold on. I've got a 4 gauge shell right here.
Okay.
Hold on. I'll show you how big it is.
Those punt guns would kill like 15 or 20 out of the sky.
Oh, they do more than that. Yeah, look at that damn thing.
They actually made. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
So they made 4 gauge shells, and this is an 8 gauge shell right here.
Jeez.
So that 8's bigger than a 10 by a lot. So, but what it is? So was that a gun you would hold? That's not one they mounted on top of the gun.
No, it actually would be shouldered. Now it was only meant to be shot 2 or 3 times a morning, but it would be shooting into a raft of ducks,
right?
Maybe sculling. But the guns that are going to be into the vault, they are not punt gun mounted guns. They are actually break open, and you put them to your shoulder and hope that you don't rip your rotator cuff in two.
No, and those guns, they would use them at nighttime, like in the Chesapeake Bay, and they had these jack lights, they called them. Could you imagine how shitty of light they had? Because Dive Bomb's got a new headlamp out that you can see Mars with.
Better than my headlights on my old 08 guide truck. Like if I need to figure out how to mount this light on the hood of my truck so I can see where I'm going. In the
Dive
morning.
Bomb has the greatest headlamp I've ever seen in my life.
It's bright.
But the lights, them jack lights that they would use on them old boats in Chesapeake Bay, they had to get them ducks within 20 yards or 15 yards to even be able to see them with the lights. And they would fire them guns in there, and they would kill 200 or 300, 400 ducks at a time. And then they'd take them to Baltimore and they'd sell them, put them on a boat to New York City, and they would pay $5, $6. Someone told me a canvasback sold for $5 or $6 a duck in the Depression days.
Yep. So they'd load them up on trains. They pack them. I think they did have a little bit of ability to keep them cool as well, especially if they were shooting them in January and February. But a canvasback was the most sought after, which is why their populations dwindled. Like the canvasback's the one duck that we almost hunted to extinction, outside of the Labrador duck and what happened with that. But a canvasback was a very high priced duck. And then I've seen the old sheets, and it's kind of what you would think. Mallards were pretty sought after. Black ducks that they shot over there sought after. Then you got down into the scaup. Some of the diving ducks, and they might only be 15 cents a piece. But it was full market hunting. And I think the 4 and the 8 went away when market hunting went away. Like when they outlawed that in the 30s, right around the time that they started the duck stamp program, the federal duck stamp program, they said, okay, if we're not going to market hunt, we're also going to do away with these really, really big gauge firearms. But they were being used in Europe as well.
How big's that gun?
It's about 6 feet tall. It's probably a 35-inch barrel.
Wow.
God almighty.
Can you imagine
swing on it, trying to swing that?
Like you just have to like show, almost like hip it and just.
You're not dove hunting with it for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, let me change the subject real quick.
No, hold on a second.
I want to talk about the ducks, the extinct ducks. Real
Okay,
quick.
you can talk. And then
We're talking about the duck that extinct. What happened to the passenger pigeon? Did disease wipe them out? I know they shot a lot of them, but there's no way they killed every one of them. Did they have disease hit them too?
I don't know. I think it would. I think for an animal species to go completely extinct, I think they have to be incredibly dumb, or there has to be some type of disease that is influenced in just wiping them out. But I don't know the answer to that. I'll get the answer to that one as well.
Put that one on there also.
I would like to know, because they said they darken the skies, and I've seen mourning dove or the white-winged dove here. We had a hunt this year earlier that they were everywhere, and they just come in by the hundreds. And I just can't imagine the passenger pigeon was probably 3 times the biggest size as that they just wiped all of them out. And that happened in the late 1800s, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy that happened.
Take me back to the Labrador duck, because I've never heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's my ignorance. Obviously, it's my ignorance. What happened to them?
They weren't very smart.
Oh.
And they my understanding is they pretty much got hunted to extinction. Now, it wasn't necessarily in the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, this was up north,
Nova Scotia.
But they were very susceptible to predators, all kind of predators.
I'm looking this up right now. I've never even heard of a Labrador duck.
It was a poacher, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
It's not. It's not a very pretty duck. White, yeah.
That's what the Labrador Retriever's named after.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so.
But is it just because of where they were?
Well, I don't know, but I think that's what that dog was.
Actually, I looked this up with my son the other night on the Labrador Retriever.
Okay.
A British breed that was originally bred with a dog from the Labrador area that was a water dog, and then with an Irish water spaniel type dog to create the Labrador breed. And they took the dogs that they brought from Labrador, they took their name to name the breed.
Could you imagine if you had a patent on that dog? The greatest dog that ever lived.
The number one selling dog.
You can
most popular dog.
You
forever.
can be a Chessie guy. You can be a Vizsla, whatever you want to be. There is not a greater dog in the world than a Labrador Retriever for being a family dog, a working dog, smart. And I've got a Labradoodle, but the brains he gets, well, I don't know where they come from, but that's the greatest dog there is, the greatest breed ever. Like King Buck, what a great dog.
King Buck was a great dog owned by John Olin.
Yep.
Of Winchester.
Yep. I think it was the 48 and 46, 47 and 48 national field champion. I can't remember. I think he won it 3 years in a row.
So yep, he is buried on Winchester's property up there. Nilo Farms, which is Olin spelled backwards. There's your trivia.
I did not know that. I learned something today.
So they took what year did they do this, where they created the Labrador Retriever? Do you remember that?
It's late 1800s, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And they took they took these dogs and then they made what we see today.
The Labrador dog that they use, the water dog, I think it was a tolling dog also. Do you know what that is?
No, and that created the web feet for what we see on Labradors today?
Yes, but the tolling dog, if I'm not correct, they send these dogs up the river and they bark at these ducks and stuff, and they get the ducks curious, and the ducks will swim back towards the dog, and then you'll shoot them. And
that's correct.
I think the first Labrador dog that they had, the water dog there, was a tolling dog. And you know
that's
what?
Where my fucking dog gets it from. Then that's what he's got. He's still got those genetics. I'm telling you, he's got those original genetics, because when it's time to hunt, he is a bucking bull. He's a whiner.
I think he just wants to call him in, Andy. That's what it is.
I guess he's trying to match my Specklebelly call.
You know, any fact that we've said about this Labrador dog, a tolling dog, the duck, we will get 450 messages tomorrow.
I had no clue about any of this, so this is all new to me.
It's because you young people don't read.
I don't. You're right, Jeff.
David, was you consumed with waterfowl when you were a kid?
I read about it every single night. My family owned the bookstore at Florida State University.
Oh wow!
So my father had access to all the books, and probably all the classic waterfowling books. And when I was young, 6, 7, 8, I was reading The Shootin'est Gentleman and The Bluebills Died at Dawn. And I was reading all of these short stories from waterfowl writers like Gordon McCory and Nash Buckingham as I went to bed. I was eat up with it.
See, I was too.
This goes back to like what we were talking about earlier with the 70s and everybody being so skinny. We've got all the information that you could ever want right here in your pocket. It sleeps by you. Literally, this does not get with further than arm's length. We're dumber now than we were 50 years ago. And we've got all the information that we could ever want right here.
It's because that's not like reading a book. I know it's the same thing in it, but I can read a book on my laptop.
Retain it more?
Yeah. Even when if we have a guest on and he's written a book and I want to know about it, I'll read a whole book in a night. I read fast and I like to read. And I'll read a whole book in a night. And I can do it and order it on Amazon and read it right on my computer if I don't get the book. But I like to read more when I have an actual book in my hand. All those books you talk about, Nash, Gordon, and all them books, I have the actual book, and I like to read them. And I can sit down and read a story or two, but kids today don't read. But I'm like you. When I was a kid, I ate that stuff up. When we got the Ducks Unlimited magazine, I'd look at the pictures. And when we were my junior high that I went to in Wichita had a book called North American Waterfowl. And I've always wanted to buy this book, and I've never seen it before. And it was a big book. It wasn't a little book. It was a bigger book, and but there was pictures of guys hunting Canada geese somewhere up in Maryland and in the neighborhood, and they're putting out their blocks and they had their deal. And I could just imagine myself as a kid being there. And that stuff I've never lost. I've retained all of that because I was like you. I was amazed by it. And it just, everything about it. And so everything when we talk about the tolling and stuff is stuff I read about when I was a kid and stuff. But young people today just don't read like we did. They don't have to.
Do you remember a book called The Duck Hunter's Bible?
I think I have it in my office.
So there's one picture in there, and like all those books, I just read them. I just devoured them. There's one book in there that shows a guy. It's a picture of a guy in Montana putting plastic sheeting out in a field to mimic water, putting decoys on it. I remember being 8 or 9 years old and thinking if I could ever do that, that will just kind of conclude my life. And I tried it once in my 20s hunting Canada geese in Georgia, and it doesn't work.
It does not. Okay.
No.
We can put it to rest.
Well, I can guarantee it doesn't. I've been there too.
You've done it?
Ron Stanfield, does this shock you?
No, because I think Ron told me that's
It
what we
works.
needed to do one day.
Yes, it will
We were
work.
going through a bad drought in 2011. Ron was like, you know what you need? You need plastic sheets in all your field, and all the birds will think it's water. So it doesn't work.
Yeah,
he lied to me. He had a short memory.
You know, we tried it one time. It didn't work. Another thing my dad was big on was you could take laundry bluing and throw it on ice, and it would look like open water.
Yep.
Yep. And that's, it's just, you got a trial and error. You know, we didn't have all this fancy equipment that y'all have now. We didn't have any kind of spinning decoys. We had G&H decoys that you could buy at Gibson's downtown Wichita Falls. And that was, we didn't have the equipment you have now. The cold weather gear we didn't have. Waders were horrible then. There wasn't no shin gear back then.
But you had better hunters back then. We've talked about this a lot with Lee Chose. We're better killers now because of the technology and like where we are with shotguns and shotgun shells and the gadgets that we have. We're better killers now, but we were better hunters 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
I don't know if we were better hunters. We just didn't have any quit in us because we were hungry.
You had to be,
you had to be a good shooter.
Hunter. Well, and you didn't have anything better to do at home.
Well,
I think we were better hunters back then.
Yeah.
Because of the trial and error that you had to go through.
yes.
Yeah.
Lots of bad days.
That's what I get most in my Instagram messages is how do I do this? And I like being a resource for people, but the other part of me wants to be like, figure it out. Just try it. Maybe it is less decoys. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to get to the edge. Maybe you need to hide in the middle. Maybe you need to call more. Maybe you need to call less. I don't know. I can give you what I might think, but at the end of the day, you need to get out there and you need to take your lumps and you need to take your L's, and it's part of it. You're going to be better for it. Might piss you off. You might go to bed pissed off and, you might have kicked the dog or had some words with the wife because you had a bad hunt, but it's what you need to do to grow. And like I said, I enjoy those messages. I'll answer those messages. But what I really want to say deep down is try it. It might work today.
Yeah. And right.
Just do it.
I was hunting last week. We were setting out. We were going all silhouettes, all dive bombs.
Yep.
And somebody kept asking me about, are we putting them too close together? Are we putting them too far out, this or that? And I said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to change them 3 times this morning.
Right.
I can go ahead and tell you I'm going to have to move these decoys 3 times until we figure out what the birds want.
Right.
And I wonder how many people don't do that, right?
Yeah.
It just stinks today. We're seeing birds, they're call shy or whatever. Well, you better change something.
Yeah.
Because to sit there and do the exact same thing, it's not going to magically turn on at 10 in the morning.
Right. And that's what I don't want. Like when people ask me those questions, that's exactly what I'm afraid of is, well, Andy Shaver of the Big Honker podcast said that I've got to set Nike swoosh spread and call every third wing beat or something like that. So by God, that's what I'm going to do. Well, it's just like, no, like this is fluid. Like today, we hunted a peanut field and there were hay bales in it. Our original plan was out the door where we were going to set our A-frame up. So we had to improvise. And when we improvised, we had to kind of improvise our spread a little bit. Well, the birds could not drop in with the way that the wind was. They had to fly over a hook. We basically set like a J hook. They would not fly over the hook, so they'd skirt the blind. We moved decoys 3 times before we finally got the flock in the way that we wanted to get the flock in. We were still killing birds, but it was kind of this glancing blow. They weren't finishing. I mean, I've been doing this I've been guiding hunts on my own since I was 16, doing it with other people since I was 12, and I still didn't set it out right the first time.
Another thing too, we have a group text every morning, and I keep up with every group we have, everything going on. I like to know what's going on. I think that's just good business to know what's going on. And I stay in tune with everything. And the other day, Andy goes, that flock finished perfect and we didn't call at all.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, whoa. And then all of a sudden the 3 guides are chatting about 3 different groups. And guess what we're doing? Nobody's calling hardly that morning and it's working great. The next day you don't call. They didn't want nothing. They wanted you to call, like we talked about earlier. But that's the learning experience. You've got to try things out all the time.
And my thinking is like, if the bird's coming, let him come. Don't step on it. Let him, until he gives you a reason to do something, don't change it. And if it was opening morning is what it was. And like, you know, the birds get out there, they're used to coming out and it being quiet and them being the first birds to the field. And then like all of a sudden there's 30 dozen decoys out and I'm screaming at them on a call. Well, yeah. Like that's not what they've been here a month now and they've not seen that at all. So I could see why they would flare a little bit. So cut back on calling and it worked.
We had a friend of ours that was hunted the nuisance season in Ohio and they hunted on a golf course. And this would have been back, I don't know.
2005, 2006.
Long time ago, 15, 16 years ago. And he said he got invited to go with one of our other guides up there. And he went up there and they showed up this golf course. And he said, there's 14 guys and they want to put out 500 decoys.
Yeah.
And he said, all 14 of them are wanting to blow at these geese. And here's these big old geese coming up that come from a pond. They come the same place every day. And they're like, where the hell do all these farts come from? You know, there's 500 birds there. And damn, they're loud and rude and everything else. He said, it was nothing.
We're about to get our asses kicked.
Right. I'm not landing there. That sounds terrible.
You know, and he said the guys putting on the green behind him were like, what the hell are y'all doing down here? You know, it's just, but they were on a public golf course that wanted to shoot some geese. But every guy took his own trailer out there and everything else. So,
but I want people to try things and, you know, I can give you what I think and it may or may not work. Today what I thought didn't work.
And it's okay to fail.
Sure.
Right. Like some of the best lessons I've learned waterfowl hunting is when I just flat failed.
Right.
And it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to hunt with waterfowl hunters of all ages, and the college age ones, when I have an opportunity to hunt with them, is explaining to them, if we don't kill a limit today, it's going to be okay. We might fail, but we're going to learn something today that later on in your life, you're going to be able to apply, not even know that you're doing it. And somebody's going to go, wow, you're a really good duck hunter. The only place you're going to learn that is through trial and error. You can read books, and yes, it does give you a lot of basic information, put the wind at your back, try to put the sun at your back, all of that stuff. But there's things that happen that just the only way to learn is by failure.
Yeah.
But that's what worries me some is that we've gotten to where failure is a bad thing, right? If you don't have a hero shot every day,
right,
you're not doing something right. And for all you young kids listening out there, it doesn't happen that way.
Well, and
ever.
It's the world we live in where it's instant gratification all of the time. If I want to see a naked chick on my phone, I can see a naked chick on my phone. If I want to see geese coming in and just getting wrecked on a pond, I can see that right now. And it's just the world that we live in right now where instant gratification is what people want, and it's shallow and not lasting. So you better get obsessed with the little things, and you better get obsessed with having conversations and listening to conversations like we had just a minute ago about how the Labrador Retriever was created and the tolling dog and all these little things that make waterfowl hunting and the waterfowl heritage so rich and diverse and beautiful to study, because those are the people that last doing what we do, not the people that, are in it for the Instagram picture.
So my father is just had his second knee replacement and had to have some treatment done to his back this summer. So he will not be hunting this season. Like, there's no way. And he's getting to the age to where a lot of hunting just isn't going to happen. But when I was down visiting him a few weeks ago, and eventually it turned to hunting like it always does, our conversation. And I said, you exercise that knee, get your back right. Next year, early spec season, you don't have to get in the mud, come up. I've got some new A-frames, this, that, this, and that, and this, and that. And I said, we'll get you right with a 20 gauge. And he said, I don't even have to take a gun. Yeah. He said, now that I can't really do it anymore, he said, I just want to watch you call and work that dog. Yeah. He said, I've done enough killing. Mm-hmm. And that really stuck with me I think we all need to step back and enjoy so much of it. And I love the killing. I mean, there's a means to the end, But gosh, there's so much more about it than just the pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, it's so deep, and you can be as obsessed with this as you want to be. I mean, you can be the casual weekend hunter, or you can go full tilt and lose sleep over it. But there's something for everybody, and we're a rare breed, and I hope that we're not a dying breed, because that's not good for either one of our business models. But I love it, and days like today. It's easy to love it on days like today, but just sending your dog on that one long retrieve, and that that's the only thing you're probably going to get, and watching him or watching a new hunter and watching their face light up whenever birds do what they're supposed to do, or just when they figure something out on their own, like setting a decoy spread, like kind of when that starts to click, or whenever they hit the right note on a goose or duck call, and then you see that glimmer in their eyes. So we got to pass it on. That's for sure. This has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We've got, we're going to have to start wrapping up. We got to scout birds here in just a little bit.
Are you going to come see us, David?
I'm trying. They've put a meeting on top of me that week.
Uh-oh.
And it's for DUX, and it's a lot of our corporate partners coming in to talk about the show.
It's that new title you got.
I'm still trying my hardest to fit it into that trip.
Okay. Do you want to tell everybody what dates the DUX is, or do you want to hold off on that?
We'll hold off. We'll talk about that maybe in February.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell them it's going to be early May at Texas Motor Speedway.
Perfect.
But first things first, into the vault.
That's right.
November 21st to December 3rd, and the website is www.ducks.org/vault. And if you go there right now, it's just going to be a write-up on it. But when that thing turns on the 21st of November, that address takes you straight into the auction, and you'll see it all over social media. We got a big social media plan for it.
Now, when you're on this, like how will you search things? Is it just scroll and you scroll through all the items, or is it kind of categorized?
Through all the items, or there's drop downs with all the different categories.
Okay.
So you can go and choose by category. I think there's 20 categories, or you can open it up to where all 600 items, and you can scroll through every single one of them.
Perfect. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch take place over the Thanksgiving holiday and all that time of year. So this has been a lot of fun. I feel like we've talked about some good stuff. Hopefully we've got some people passionate about waterfowl hunting and raising a little bit of money for Ducks Unlimited. So this will be great. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And whenever we cross paths, hopefully it's this year, we can share a blind together. If not, then I hope you have a great waterfowl season. And hopefully this front that's coming is as advertised.
Yes, I hope so as well. And if I don't get a chance to see y'all, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas. And everybody out there, be safe, because there isn't a duck or a goose that's worth our safety.
No, it's not. David, we appreciate Ducks Unlimited and everything y'all do for us. We appreciate all the help y'all did with the Gold Star kids. It was very, very appreciated. We had a bunch of veterans here this weekend, and they wanted me to thank you for it. Thank you, sir. God bless you, and have a great weekend, and hope you have safe hunting. And we will, if not, I'll see you at Ducks for sure.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Always like having him on. He's an interesting guy.
He is a wealth of knowledge. Almost as smart as you are, Jeff.
Probably a little smarter than me.
I did not know that about it. It explains everything. Whenever you said what the tolling dog does, that's Lou. It all makes sense now. He carries the original genetics.
Let me correct myself, because the more I'm thinking about this,
now we got a redaction.
The dog would bark at the dogs, the deals, and then he would get in the water and he'd swim away from them, and the ducks would follow behind him swimming, and that's what they call a tolling dog. I think I'm gonna have to look it up now. I used to have a book on all that. And a really interesting book is the guy from Texas has G.K. Chambers, the book.
He was at Game Fair.
He has an interesting book. He asked me about being on the podcast. We need to get him on. He would be a really good Gary Chambers.
You need to read his book.
I've got his book at the house. It sits right next to the bed, and I have not had a chance to read it all.
You're spending too much time on Netflix.
Yes.
It's cut into your reading. That's why we're dumber now than we were 50 years ago.
The new Crown comes out tonight. That's history. I like watching stuff on history.
Well, it's got a slant to it.
Well, I'm sure it does.
Is this is the one they put Princess Di in it, don't they?
I don't know. Yeah, she was in the last series, but I don't know. This is probably the one where she dies, I guess, probably this year. I don't
dies or gets killed.
Andy, we're not going to go down that. We get kicked off YouTube all the time. We don't need to be kicked off today because speaking about the hottest thing that they ever had. Oof, his new one compared to his old one.
Sausage fingers?
Oh, he looks horrible.
Yeah.
That's all that inbreeding. All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Next week, we will have... Who we got?
Maddie Robertson that will be on next
Pro
week.
Fisherman. We'll have a round table.
Yep.
We got something else going on next week, too. I can't remember.
We'll figure it out next week.
All
a
right.
lot of time before
Thank y'all, and God bless y'all. Have a great week. Bye.
Go spend some money with Ducks Unlimited. Listen, he's giving you the date, so whenever they release this into the vault, go check it out. They're going to have a lot of great stuff there at Ducks Unlimited. We're also brought to you by Dirty Duck Coffee, Double T British Kennel, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Bangtail Whiskey, Alpha Outdoors, Hunt Proof app. Go set it up now. Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, Shin Gear Waders, Gundog Outdoors, Pacific Calls, Dive Bomb Industries, and Boss Shot Show.
And our newest sponsor, Mossberg.
Mossberg.